The Premier League are going to introduce a Hall of Fame in March, and some of the runners and riders you've just seen there. 2 inductees will start it off. The debate, this is exactly what it's about, isn't it? Who on earth would you put in that opening pair? Gents, there's a suggestion there of players there in ultra standard definition, some of those shots as well. See how far the technology has come. Liam, 2 for you that stand out straight away. Could you tell me?
2 for me. There's one that stands out for me in terms of longevity, in terms of the era, the amount of time that he played, the amount of titles that he won, what he did for our game in this country is Ryan Giggs. I think when he was I think he was 17, burst on the scene. He was almost like, I remember people saying about him, he was the next George Best. And for him to go from 17 to ending his career at 40 and playing a Manchester United team and win 13 titles and playing the way he did, he was an unbelievable winger, could beat players, then changed his game, could play as a number 10. In the end, he was sitting deep in midfield and spraying passes. I just think the man's an absolute genius and a legend. And for me, he's the first name that comes to mind.
It seems to be that combination, doesn't it? And I presume, Mark, it's the interpretation of what, in your eyes, makes a great player. But as Liam says, it's the initial skill and the talent. But to do it over 2 decades and just hoover up trophies, it's a phenomenal example of Premier League quality.
It's an unbelievable achievement, incredible achievement, and the physical athleticism involved, and to play at that level for so long, magnificent. For me, I look at the likes of Alan Shearer, Thierry Henry. They're the ones, and we're always speaking of attacking players here, I know.
They're the ones that stick out instantly.
They do, they capture your attention straight away, and the fans love the goal scores. But for me, Alan Shearer is synonymous with the Premier League, scoring goals, club and country, hero on Tyneside. You look at that type of ability, for me, outstanding.
Do you also look at, when you're trying to quantify what Shearer did in his career, do you look at the team perhaps that he played with? Obviously, he won the Premier League with Blackburn, but if you look at the Newcastle team that he played with, would be different to what Ryan Giggs' team would be at Manchester United, of course. The quality is obviously not quite the same. So does that put his goal-scoring feats onto an even greater player?
I think it has to. You know, the way, the number of goals, the variety of goals. Aerially so strong, so strong with the technique. You look at that achievement, magnificent. But then as I'm always looking at these attacking players, and you forget the likes of Adams and Schmeichel.
Oh man,
so many. We could be
we could do a debate for over the whole season talking about this, and it's great. I think we should celebrate the very
defenders.
Yeah, that would be great. But you should celebrate the best. I think it's a great way of doing it. I know they do it a lot in the American sports.
It seems to have taken its cue from that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's great. You saw it was tragic when Kobe Bryant passed away so tragically, and you saw the amount of people that he inspired, and the likes of Ryan Giggs and Alan Shearer and what Thierry Henry did in his time at Arsenal, so many more. They inspire people to be great at what they do, and young players coming through now.
So this is going to be thrown open to fan debate to vote for this. But when we are talking about it, and I've asked you both the question, does it tap into what football at its most fundamental, what's great about it? It makes you feel something. Yeah. So when you're talking about Shearer, I presume it's the euphoric nature of watching him score a goal. If you're talking about Ryan Giggs, it's the goal against Arsenal, isn't it? It's weaving through and taking the team apart. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it's interpreted across the public and how they come to a decision, isn't it?
They talk about the game, but it's about the passion and the emotions that are involved. You know about other businesses, multi-billion-pound businesses, they don't come with the same level of fan engagement. What it means, the club's the heartbeat of the community. What it means to the local community is so vitally important. And as you say, it arouses the passions and emotions in so many people, young, old, male, female, and that's the beauty of the game.
I think that's the thing. For me, there's no right and wrong. I've seen on TV the greatest Premier League team be debated over and over again. It's different for every single person. Every person has their own favourite player, from a memory from when they were a child, their first game they went to. That's what makes the game fantastic. So there's no right or wrong in this. And I've seen people heatedly debate, was the Manchester United team of the 90s better
in this
than
very
Liverpool
studio,
of the 80s? In this very room. I'm like, let's just celebrate them, because they're it's just fantastic to watch them play football. And now I think we talk about Liverpool this season, incredible. We've got 2 of the very, very best teams ever. And Manchester City this year haven't lived up to Liverpool's standard. They've just gone away to Real Madrid and won 2-1. I think we should just celebrate real talent and real ability that we've got. And the Hall of Fame is another way to do it.
The thing that you both described there with regards to Shearer and Giggs, obviously players very much of these isles, but if you look at, say, like the contribution perhaps of Thierry Henry and what he managed to do in the game, I mean, does that take on a greater significance because he's come from a different country and
I look at the
elevated his level?
The impact that Didier Drogba's had on our Premier League is unbelievable. But the work that he does now back in the Ivory Coast, back in Africa, how he's affected, and we forget how many people all over the world watch the Premier League. It's a global phenomenon, and these players from all around the world are inspiring Africans. They're inspiring people in the Middle East. They're inspiring people in the United States. It's a worldwide brand, and it's a fantastic thing that we should all enjoy, really.
Just off the back of a tweet that we've just seen there, that when the name Matt Letizia gets thrown in as well, because we are talking about, because the parameters that they've labelled these players in is exceptional talent and skill, which undoubtedly Matt Letizia had in absolute abundance, but hasn't got the medal haul that Ryan Giggs has got.
No, and with the greatest respect, in a more unfashionable team compared to the Uniteds, etc. So, magnificent player, magnificent player. But you look at it, I'm going off from what Liam just said. You look at the impact of these players. So I'm looking at Cazorla. What impact did he have on John Terry? Straight away defensively, John Terry must be in there. All the titles he won with Chelsea, but what impact did Gianfranco have on John Terry's development? The same
with Cantona. With Alex Ferguson always talks about
a lot of the class of '92 credit.
But they
Cantona
said that his professionalism and seeing him do the extras and seeing him stretch, it just spread through the whole football club. And I think sometimes those intangibles are missed of what players bring to a country. So you would see Eric Cantona was one of my, with the collar up and what he did on, he was unbelievable.
All about the style.
But he laid down a foundation for a legacy after him, and I think that's what the very best do.
Well, the great thing is you can debate it and you can quantify exactly how we would like to put these players in, and different players have different records and different strings to the bow. I mean, there's a lot of names there that, I mean, again, the debate with regards to longevity, you look at Ryan Giggs as a name that we keep coming back to, but Gareth Barry, the sheer number of games in the Premier League. Cristiano Ronaldo seemed to be, compared to others, a relatively short period of time in the Premier League, but my word, did he burst onto it and take the bull by the horns eventually, didn't he? When he matured both as a player and a person. Aguero, top overseas goal scorer.
But we look at the goal scorers there, David, and again, there's no mention of a Peter Schmeichel, for example, who I'm sure has had a huge impact on goalkeeper development, coaching, training in the years since. So, the 60 strikers are great to put in there, but don't the impact of the likes of Schmeichel, John Terry, Vidic. All these players have had a huge impact on the game. When
it's open to this type of debate, is there the element where perhaps you could get a section of fans that want to be almost kind of the more cerebral element of, I can understand a Thierry Henry, I can understand a Giggs, but give me Tony Adams, give me Michael Carrick.
I'll tell you what, I'd like to see Michael Carrick was one of my favourite players of a generation. Claude Makélélé had a position named after him, and people said he only passed sideways, but the guy's positioning and his understanding of the game was on a whole different level. Didn't score many goals. So there's so many players that give different things. I love football because every position on the pitch is important. I think the hardest thing to do is score goals, but every single little positional thing that you see and what Claude Makélélé and Michael Carrick did can't be discounted either.
Can you, given the positions that you two fellas are in on the touchline and the stresses and the intense kind of scrutiny that comes under it, can you still look at football like this? Obviously, it's a bit easier when you're sat away from the game, but can you sit in a coach's room and chat about...
We did on Tuesday.
We did, absolutely. I did.
Was that before or after the game?
Before.
I couldn't possibly say that. But I think if you don't enjoy doing that and talk about football, you shouldn't be in the game. That's the whole point we spoke earlier about passion and emotion. You've got to love what you watch. Paul Scholes, for me, to watch Paul Scholes was magnificent. Don't forget, Xavi and Iniesta spoke about Paul Scholes as being a joy to watch. Two of the greatest players the world's ever seen at Barcelona, talking about Paul Scholes, but you don't see his name on the list. And it's that type of, the depth of talent that we have come to the Premier League.
For example, I think it's love of the game makes you want to have a passion to work as hard as what coaches, managers, players do. But the first two players we spoke about came off the pitch were young Eze and Wayne Rooney. What did they do? How did they play? Two unbelievable footballers that you just enjoy, whether you win or lose, you enjoy watching them play football. That's what keeps us going.
Quick touch on Rooney. He's quite obviously a player when it comes to as and when he may retire. He's got to be in the discussion for
100%.
The kind of all-time kind of greats. What you've seen so far from him in the Championship, how has he come across? How's he been to work with?
It's not until you sit up close and work with someone of his ilk that you understand why he's had the career he's had, why he's the player he is. He's got, we just talk about passion and love for the game. That's what drives him. It's winning and working. He's on the training pitch, last one off the training pitch. At his age now, with everything he's achieved, he's the first in. He wants to make sure that he gets his treatment. He wants to make sure he gets everything right. He wants to do quizzes on the coach on the way to games. So he wants to know everything about every player that's played the game. He loves the game. That's what makes him the player he is. And for someone like me, as a young coach, to see the way that he works as a player, there's nothing better. There's nothing better for our young players to learn from him.
Do you see that in the generation of players that we're seeing now, as Liam mentioned, Barry Eze and what he can do on a football pitch for QPR, that real innate love and fascination with what makes the game so inherently lovable?
Yeah, I think they may demonstrate it in a different way to you and I. That's just a generational thing. But the passion's definitely there. The desire to succeed is definitely there. How they learn maybe is different, as I say, and we have to respect that and learn from it. We can't say we're right, try and change them. They're not going to change. But their love for the game, their desire to push forward and to maximise their potential is undoubtedly there.
So it starts with 2 inductees. Mark, who would your 2 be?
I would go for Shearer and Henry.
We spoke about the sexy positions. You've gone for 2 of them.
It could be, as I say,
I think
2 of many.
For me, I agree with one, Thierry Henry, and that's tough as a Manchester United fan when they were great and he was part of that invincible team. And for me, Ryan Giggs, unbelievable.